Thank you for watching. I'm A.J. Hammer, and now that HLN After Dark just dug deep into Jodi Arias' apparent obsession with her ex, Showbiz Tonight stays up after dark with a provocative Showbiz countdown defending Jodi Arias. The top 3 reasons why some people are actually defending Arias, who of course admits she brutally killed her ex-boyfriend, Travis Alexander. Our number 3 reasons some are defending Arias: her abuse claims. Jodi claims Travis abused her and that she lied about killing him in self-defense because she was trying to protect his reputation. Well, today, a domestic violence expert testifying for Jodi's defense said that is common with domestic violence victims.
I see over and over again that people I'm with are very concerned about the reputation of the partner that they have. They're concerned about, if it's a school teacher, they're concerned about that school teacher losing their job if anybody finds out. They're worried about a reputation that somebody has. There's a lot of concern from victims across the board that the person they're with is going to have a marred reputation or lose their career.
Well, regardless of what you think of Jodi Arias, it is difficult to argue with that logic. With me in New York, Jane Velez-Mitchell, who brings you live coverage of the Arias trial weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Jane Velez-Mitchell Show. With us tonight from Hollywood, criminal defense attorney Anahita Sedaghatfar. So good to have you both here. And Jane, I'll start with you in our countdown question. Do Jodi Arias' abuse claims make her somehow more sympathetic?
Not in my book. Listen, she has said that she was abused by Travis Alexander, but where's the proof? She never filed for a restraining order. She never called 911, even in the journal she kept. There is no reference to any abuse whatsoever. In fact, she's often singing his praises. Now, he did call her some nasty names on a phone sex tape, but the prosecutor says, hey, that was consensual. They were involved in a sex game. That's very different from abuse.
What do you think, Anahita? Do all of those claims by Jodi get outweighed by the fact that she doesn't seem to have the evidence to back this up?
I think so. I think at this point her only defense really is that she was abused, because remember, AJ, this isn't a whodunit. We know that she killed Travis Alexander. She is claiming that she acted in self-defense, and in order to prove self-defense, she's going to have to show that she reasonably feared for her life, and that Travis Alexander wasn't this church-going choir boy that he presented himself to be to his friends and family, that he was mentally abusive, physically abusive, a sexual deviant. And it was that Travis Alexander that she feared.
Yeah, and anybody who's been watching along with the live coverage here on HLN every day has watched Jodi work very hard along with her defense team to paint herself as this abuse victim in hopes, of course, that the jury will believe she killed Travis Alexander in self-defense. She previously testified about what she said was a previous incident with Travis that I want to play for you.
Anybody slammed me on the floor at the foot of his bed. He called me a bitch, and he kicked me in the ribs. And that hurt for real. But he went to kick me again, and I put my hand out and to block his foot, and it clipped my hand and hit my finger.
Yeah, the only evidence of abuse is from Jodi, as we've been saying, who admitted to frequently lying in this case as well. So last night on HLN After Dark, seen 10 p.m. Eastern right here on HLN, the live-in-studio jury was asked to rule on whether Travis Alexander was guilty of abusing Jodi, taking everything into consideration. And listen to this. By an 11-to-1 vote, they said Travis was not guilty of abusing Jodi. So, Jane, I have to believe that you think the real Arias jury is going to be deciding the same thing during their deliberations, because they're going to talk about it, right?
She's a pathological liar. She has lied about everything. She said she wasn't there. Then, when they presented her with evidence, she said, oh, yeah, 2 masked ninjas burst into the house and killed Travis. She has lied so many times. Why should anybody believe her about this claim of abuse? And the jurors in their questions actually asked her that very question. Why should we believe you when you have lied so many times before? But the problem is, all they need is one person to believe her on that jury. And there was one vote that essentially says, yes, I believe her story. That's troublesome for the prosecutor.
Anahita, are the jury members even going to deliberate this when they get together to decide Jodi's fate?
Of course they are, because like Jane said, you know, it only takes one of those jurors to sympathize with Jodi. And I think you also made a good point that Jodi Arias' testimony is evidence. So, of course, we're hearing all this talk about there's no corroboration. She didn't enter these abuse incidents in her diary, but her testimony itself is evidence in this case. And her domestic violence expert and her psychologist did a great job so far of explaining why she never, I guess, made notes of this in her journal, why she never told anyone that that behavior is consistent with a victim of domestic violence and abuse.
That one sympathetic juror, that's all they need. Well, the number 2 reason on the Showbiz Countdown why some people are defending Jodi Arias, they find her likable. Check this out. This was probably the most dramatic moment that we've seen in the trial in a while. Prosecutor Juan Martinez made a very bold claim about the psychologist who was called to the stand to defend Jodi Arias and her claims. Watch this.
Isn't it true that she discussed thoughts, feelings, conversations associated with the trauma in the 48 hours interview?
Yes.
So, again, that speaks against what's in number 1, doesn't it?
I'm sorry, I don't see it that way.
Right, you wouldn't see that way because you have feelings for the defendant, right?
I beg your pardon, sir.
Hold it. The objection. It's argumentative. It totally makes it inappropriate.
We approach, Your Honor.
Okay, it may be inappropriate to me, but I actually laughed out loud when that happened. Jane, our countdown question, was it out of line for Martinez to accuse that defense witness of having feelings for Arias?
Look, I think Prosecutor Juan Martinez overall has done an excellent job, and he's dealing with some very slippery customers, as it were. But that's probably the worst thing you can accuse a psychologist of. And what's the evidence? Oh, he gave her a gift in the form of a book called Your Erroneous Zones. Not the smartest thing he's ever done, but I don't think it's fair to make that leap.
What do you think, Anahita? Is the likability factor for Jodi Arias possibly the one thing that could turn perhaps even one juror?
Yeah, I think that her looks are one of the best things she has going for her. There is clearly a mountain of evidence against her, but look at her. She looks like this young, attractive, petite, demure librarian, and her defense attorneys are basically treating this trial like a theater, and that's the sign of a good defense attorney and a prosecutor, and they are playing that up to those jurors because they want those jurors to look at her and see a stark contrast between the brutality of this murder and her, and they want it to be difficult for them to wrap their heads around the fact that she could have premeditated this brutal killing.
Yeah, and they'll play up every angle they can if they think it'll do something for them. And now on the Showbiz Countdown, we're down to the number 1 reason that some people may defend Jodi Arias. It's Jodi's troubled past. Now, we're hearing a lot about Jodi Arias' difficult relationship with her mother. In another shocking moment that we heard about, we heard mother-daughter relationship between Jodi and her mom. It got violent on several occasions, including just a few months before Jodi killed Travis. So, Jane, here's this countdown question. Will that news that Jodi kicked her mom actually make the jury feel sorry for Jodi, or are they going to think, you know, this is proof that she is violent enough to have murdered Travis and that she's just making more stuff up?
Well, who knows what a jury will do. After Casey Anthony, I never predict anymore. However, I think there's a lot of evidence that this young woman was troubled from the get-go. I certainly don't believe in a bad seed theory, but there is evidence that she has had problems in her life and problems with her mother, who she threw under the bus and claimed, oh, Mom beat me with a wooden spoon when I was a kid. Who knows if that's true or not. But she's had problems with her mom and her family for decades, long before Travis Alexander came into the picture.
But you would say it hurts her more than helps her. It's not a reason she is defendable at all.
I would say so.
Okay. All right, guys. Anahita, Jane Velez-Mitchell, thank you both so much. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
And you can always check out much more of the